Hey, what's going on? It's Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com. I'm coming to you on the bye week. Now, Alabama will be open this week, but we still got plenty of coverage on BamaInsider.com, so be sure and check us out. Today, I'm talking about the freshmen through 5 weeks of play. I'm going to talk about snap counts. I'm going to talk about season stats, and I'm going to inform you about which players can still use their red shirt this season and which players have already passed that 4-game mark. So let's start out with the top, and I'm going to read out the players who have started this season for Alabama. In fact, Alabama has started, get this, 7 players that are freshmen this season at one time or another. Pretty incredible. I know they say Alabama doesn't play freshmen. Well, simply not the case. And overall, and I'll get to this later, 19 freshmen have played this season for Alabama. When we look at Neal, who's been starting at left guard through 5 games, he had 68 snaps versus Duke, 55 against New Mexico State, 58 against South Carolina, 53 against Southern Miss, 57 against Ole Miss. On the season, 288 snaps, 5 games started. He's obviously burnt his red shirt. And while I bring up those exact snap counts, it's really impressive to me that someone that's 6'7", 360 pounds could play that amount of snaps. As you know, Alabama has played in games this season that have been over 100 degrees every single weekend. And that big boy has gone out there and competed. Yeah, his grade on Pro Football Focus floating right over the 64% mark. Yeah, that's not too impressive. But when you add into the fact that Nick Saban has started him in 5 games and he continues to improve weekly, I think that says a lot about his athleticism. And I think that says a lot about him overall coming to Alabama just during his freshman year, earning that starting spot. He's not even a guard when you look long term. He's a first round tackle in the NFL, but this season he's playing guard because of some depth issues at Alabama early on in the season. And he's doing a great job. So Neal has actually played the most snaps of any offensive freshman this season, 288 snaps. Really impressive. Shane Lee has played the most snaps this season for the Crimson Tide. Overall, he's just been really incredible in the fact that he's come to Alabama and he started at an inside linebacker position, which is very difficult to do in your first year. He's a signal caller, 301 snaps. And if that doesn't blow you away, I'm not sure what that will. I know a lot of people want to see someone else repping at the inside linebacker position. A lot of people calling for Ali Cajo, maybe even Ali Cajo over Christian Harris, who we'll talk about next. But Shane Lee has, 85 snaps against Ole Miss. Were you at that Ole Miss game? Heat index over 100 degrees, young man balling out, 260 pounds, running out there, chasing down running backs. Who else are you going to put in over him? Obviously, Alabama feels confident enough to continue to lead him, let him on the field. He's doing a great job considering this is his first year, and he's calling the defense for Pete Golding, right? Overall in the season, 30 tackles, which is second on the team, 2 tackles for a loss. He actually has a quarterback sack as well. He's obviously burnt that opportunity to redshirt this season. Moving along, Christian Harris. Game started 5, played 65 snaps against Ole Miss as well. I mean, these guys are getting in a lot of reps. And Christian Harris is a guy, we've said it 100 times already, didn't even play inside linebacker at the high school level. Played corner and wide receiver. So you have a lot of athleticism with Harris. He's 250 pounds as well. Thought he's done a good job. During the South Carolina game, Nick Saban experimented with Ali Cajo and Harris sharing the reps, but then again, against Southern Miss and against Ole Miss, there's your starter, Christian Harris. So those young guys are trying to get the experience. As you know, Alabama has that gauntlet in the back end. Christian Harris, Shane Lee, 2 freshmen starting in the inside linebacker positions. Who would have thought that coming into the 2019 season, right? When we went through 5 games, if I would have asked you what 2 freshmen would be starting as a constant for Alabama, would you have said Christian Harris and Shane Lee? Probably not. On the season, Christian Harris, 24 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss. DJ Dell, I know he's a fan favorite, actually started earning time with the first team way back in the springtime, and I think that says a tremendous amount, right? Came in as an early enrollee, and boom, already repping with the first team. 34 snaps against Duke in the opener, 39 snaps against Ole Miss. He's another big boy out there playing when it's really hot, and you just continue to hear positive praise from Nick Saban. He's dealt with a couple nagging injuries early on, still dealing with the nagging injury as we go into this open week, but it doesn't look too serious. Nick Saban expects him to be in full health for that Texas A&M game on the season. 10 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss. Obviously, he's past that redshirt mark as well. Talking about the kicker, Will Reichert, who's currently dealing with a hip flexor injury, and I think that injury, there's no good time for injury, but this injury came during a time where Reichert can work on his health. He didn't play last week against Ole Miss, and this week, obviously, with Alabama not having a game, it gives him another opportunity to heal up. 4 of 7 on the season. He started against Duke, New Mexico State, South Carolina, and Southern Miss. And that Southern Miss game is where he's injured, so he didn't play Ole Miss. That's when Joseph Bolivas came in. He can still redshirt if this injury continues to be nagging. He's only played 4 games. Remember, if you've played past 4 games, then you can no longer redshirt. So Will Reichert just has a game left. But, he's been doing a good job for the most part. I know the field goals are field goals at Alabama, but in terms of kickoffs and what Nick Saban has said, Nick Saban seems pleased with his freshman kicker. Jordan Battle, talk about a guy who has really jumped out, has really stood out during the 2019 season. He started 2 games for the Crimson Tide, started out playing 9 snaps against Duke. That's where he recorded his interception. 52 snaps against New Mexico State. That was the game where he started. Against Ole Miss, he played in 22 snaps. On the season, he has 12 tackles, as mentioned, 1 interception. Nick Saban really likes Jordan Battle, had a lot of high praise for him during his Wednesday conference. And I think he's going to be a guy that continues to excel, and he's going to be a guy that Alabama fans talk about for a long time. And good news, he's only a freshman because, as you know, the secondary has a lot of veterans that are going to exit the program next season. Talking about Justin Ebogbe, he's another guy who has started over the last 2 games with injured LeBron Ray. Justin Ebogbe is a guy that Nick Saban is really, really high on. He's looked great during fall camp, came into the season, dealt with some minor nagging injuries, but now he's full go. 48 snaps against Ole Miss. He has 5 tackles on the season, and I think he's a guy, along with DJ Dell. I mean, two guys that are freshmen starting up front in the defensive line, 2 guys starting at the inside linebacker position. I mean, yeah, the vulnerabilities are on the defensive side because of this lack of experience. But I think going forward, these guys are going to be Alabama's next, defensive stronghold when we look to the future. It's concerning that these guys don't have big game experience, but they're getting baptized by fire right now. And that's tough to do as a freshman when you come in. But these guys are learning as you go. Now, here are some other freshmen who have played during the 2019 season. A lot of them still, right? Byron Young, he's a guy that has seen time in actually every single game this season. He actually has 9 tackles. Against Ole Miss, he had 34 snaps. Against Southern Miss, he had 24 snaps. Against New Mexico State in week 2, he had 40 snaps. A guy that's getting a lot of reps. A guy that, again, Nick Saban feels is very, has a lot of tools to contribute for this team right now, not later on, but right now. So you're starting to see Byron Young and Justin Ebogbe really start to jump up and earn their reps for the Crimson Tide's first-team defense. Darian Dalcourt, this guy is very, very underrated. I think he could probably start right now at the center position if needed. 49 snaps on the season. It's not a huge sample size, but if you watch the film on Darian Dalcourt, he's a guy who can certainly hold his own. He has a great drive off. He plays very smart football. Darian Dalcourt, very underrated player. He can't redshirt this season, so you're going to continue to see him get reps throughout the year, which I don't think is a bad thing. Really high on Darian Dalcourt. DeMarco Hellams, another guy in that secondary along with Jordan Battle that's getting reps. He's played in week 1, week 2, week 3 against South Carolina. He didn't play, but he's a guy that looks great at practice, and he has a lot of weight on him. And that's not a bad thing. I think that just means that he can come downhill and lay the wood. 4 tackles on the season. He can still redshirt, but I don't think DeMarco Hellams is going to redshirt. I think he's going to continue to play. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a play or two, a big-time play or two later on in the season. John Mechie, a guy that is next in line to be part of this Alabama receiving corps. He's played in all 5 games this season, 20 snaps against Ole Miss. Only 2 receptions on the season. But, I mean, come on. There's a lot of mouths to feed on that receiver side of the ball. But John Mechie, you watch him. Remember, he was the A-Day MVP. He's a guy that has a tremendous upside. And, yeah, it is scary when you look at the fact that Devontae Smith and Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, all those guys are exiting the program. But think about next year. You got John Mechie on the outside. You got Jalen Waddle. You got a lot of talent still returning to that receiver side of the football. Slade Bolden, Terrell Shavers, Xavier Williams. So those guys, are going to be tough to lose, the receivers, but John Mechie is one guy that you can definitely count on for next season. Kellen Robinson, 3 snaps, 7 snaps against NMSU. He's a guy who's reeled off some big scores, and as Nick Saban has said, he's got the juice. 16 carries, 117 yards on the season with that touchdown. That was a 74-yard run. Really like Robinson. He runs, out of all the running backs, honestly, I think him and Ford really just hit the hole hard. Hit the hole how a running back's supposed to hit the hole, right? Marcus Banks is a defensive back, a corner, who has seen time in week 1 and also saw time against Southern Miss. He's a guy who's been repping with the 2s, believe it or not. I still think he's a little bit undersized, but he's right there working hand in hand with Nick Saban. Nick Saban sees the defensive back, so obviously has a lot of confidence in Marcus Banks. Scooby Carter, he's a guy who's seen plenty of time this year. 8 snaps against Duke, 21 against New Mexico State. Didn't play against Ole Miss. Has a tackle on the season. How do you not like this kid? How do you not like his name? Scooby Carter. I love saying it. Another guy in the secondary that Alabama is going to be able to rely on in the future. Talia Tungavailoa, only 2 snaps against Duke, and then didn't play, the rest of the way. So he can still certainly redshirt, and I think that's good news for Alabama Crimson Tide football fans. And it'll be interesting to see what transpires with Talia going forward. Just the fact that you're going to lose Tua Tagovailoa, but you still can wear your Hawaiian lei to Alabama football games because you had Talia coming back. And I really like Talia. I like everything that he brings to the table. I like the fact that he's a competitor. I think he throws a great ball. Really high on the kid, and I think he has a really good attitude. It's really good to see him and Tua on the field, kind of behind the scenes. Those two have that brotherly love, and, Talia is certainly a baller as well. Jahlil Billingsley is the guy at the tight end position who I really, really like. Big target. No stats to report this year, but he has played in 3 out of Alabama's 5 games. And I think when you talk about a playmaker at the tight end position, it could be Jahlil Billingsley going forward. In fact, I know it will be him. It's going to be really interesting to see if Alabama lands Eric Gilbert, who's a 5-star tight end. You got Billingsley, you got Gilbert coming in. Gilbert might even be a possession type wide receiver if Alabama is able to get him on. So you could theoretically have Gilbert and Billingsley on the field at the same time, which would be a nightmare for opposing defenses. King Makuta, outside linebacker that has seen some time this season. No stats to report, but Nick Saban continues to say that he's coming along at the outside linebacker position. You look at him and a guy like Kevin Harris, Kevin Harris hasn't played this year, but those guys are your bookend outside linebackers going forward. Pierce Quick, everybody's high on Pierce Quick. Played against South Carolina, also played against Duke in the later part of the game. Team leader, does all the things right. 9 total snaps on the season. He can still obviously redshirt. Braylon Ingram is a guy who saw 6 snaps against Ole Miss. That was the first time he got on the field of the 2019 season, has 1 tackle. Obviously, he can still redshirt. Now, these are the freshmen who have not played during the 2019 season. Amari Kite, who's an offensive tackle. Brandon Turnage, who's in the defensive secondary. Ismail Sopsher, who's a defensive tackle. Kevin Harris at the outside linebacker position. Paul Tyson at quarterback. Tanner Bowles, who's an offensive lineman, and then, of course, Trey Sanders, who was injured. I didn't list Antonio Alfano for obvious reasons. By the numbers, most snaps played, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, Shane Lee, 301 snaps on the season on the defensive side, and then on the offensive side, most snaps played is Evan Neal, 288 snaps. How many true freshmen have started this season at one point or another for Alabama? 7. How many true freshmen have played in total this year? 19 already, if you can believe that. How many freshmen have not played yet this season. The number is 7. Hey, thanks for following our coverage. If you like this sort of content, please help our channel grow. Really helps us out. Please make sure and click subscribe so you can be notified each time we have a video regarding the Alabama Crimson Tide. Enjoy your bye week. Enjoy your friends. Enjoy your family. Enjoy college football. And of course, catch all the coverage back at BamaInsider.com. I'm coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I'm actually going to visit Fairhope, Alabama for the first time. Really looking forward to going down and checking out the good city of Fairhope. So catch you guys soon on BamaInsider.com.